Compliance for AI and crypto. Security first.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to day one of the event. This is always a great time. Everybody's very hyped. Everybody's very excited to be here. I know I am. What I will do is I will let the chaps introduce themselves, because there's nothing better than introducing yourselves, and then I'll start kind of firing some questions at you. Relax, they won't be too taxing, very 30,000 foot. What we'll do is, Joseph, perhaps if we start with you, and then we'll work our way down this way, and I'll finish up and lead into some questions.
Sounds good. So Joseph Collement from Bitcoin.com. We own the website www.bitcoin.com. I'm the Chief Legal Officer. Been with the company for 7 years, and I'm a U.S. qualified lawyer.
Very cool.
Miroslav Duric. I am a solicitor and attorney at law at Taylor Wessing, international law firm. I'm based in Frankfurt, practicing all things fintech and financial services, qualified in the UK, Ireland, and in Germany, and in crypto space for over 7 years now.
Hi, Joe Borch. Yeah, it's working. Joe Borch, WH Partners. We're a law firm based in Malta. We also have sizable offices in Rome, Bucharest, and we have a small office in Dubai right now. So I have been in the crypto and fintech industry since 2016. So now 8-9 years. And we have assisted a lot of operators to obtain licenses in Malta. And we're also assisting some clients to obtain licenses in Dubai when it comes to crypto. But also in Malta particularly, we do a lot of EMIs, PSPs, and also some investment services and funds.
Very cool. Thank you, chaps. And I'm Cal Evans. I'm the Managing Associate of Gresham International, UK qualified, and work out here in Dubai as well under the legal consultant scheme. It's great to be here, great to be on the stage with so many esteemed colleagues. We have an expression in law which is learned friend, which means we all get along, we're all instantly friends. So guys, what I'd love to do is, the thing that people have been talking a lot this morning is about Bybit and the Bybit hack. Let's clear that out of the way straight away. Let's talk about it. Where you are, whether you're in-house or you're working externally, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see at the moment facing the crypto space, specifically with securing a lot of what your clients or you are doing as an organization? Joseph, we'll start with you, and then we'll work our way down.
Sounds good. So right now, as a business in crypto, I'd say the most challenging thing is to figure out and comply with the new UK FCA regulations.
Yep.
So FinProms, as they're called. Now every single promotion of crypto made in the UK for UK people basically has to include certain language, certain disclaimers, and we've engaged with the regulators, and to us it's kind of, I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, but they're figuring out crypto as they go. Yeah. And it's a challenge from them to understand that if you're just a website or a blog talking about crypto, you shouldn't have to comply with FinProms.
I agree.
And there's a lot of companies that are kind of in the middle of that. Mm-hmm. So I'd say that this is probably the hardest challenge. And we spend a lot of money and time trying to understand and figure out the FinProms, when really it's just language, and it's kind of annoying, and it's just taking a lot of resources for everyone.
Yeah, it really is a sledgehammer to crack a nut. It really is. So I agree with you on that. So if you get in trouble, I'm going to get in trouble as well. That's fine. I'll jump in that with you. Let's carry on down the line, chaps.
Yeah, I'm just going to actually build on that. And also in the context, what we see that clients are basically experiencing most challenges with are clients operating in more than one jurisdiction. Because, for instance, we have evolving regulatory landscape in the UK that is slowly but surely finalizing. But on the other hand, we have MiCA regulation in the EU, we have regulatory frameworks in smaller jurisdictions from where some operators have headquarters, like for instance, Dubai or Hong Kong or Singapore. And this is a really, really big issue. For instance, in the context of financial promotions, so there is not something equivalent in the EU to financial promotions per se. However, on the other hand, offering crypto assets triggers some further requirements that you need to fulfill in terms of like publishing a white paper and so on and so on. We see from the latest discussion papers of the FCA in the UK that, for instance, talking about the topic of offering of crypto assets, if you offer crypto assets on a cross-border basis, you won't be able to use the same or a similar white paper prepared in the EU if you want to offer the same asset in the UK. You're going to have to basically take a different lane. And this is a really, really problematic, basically, especially for smaller firms where you need to have a team of dedicated lawyers covering different jurisdictions, which is really, really challenging, even for some more established businesses, not to mention small startups that usually rely on like one or two men teams that are covering both legal and compliance.
Yeah, it's. So did you
Yeah,
want
so
to? Please add
just
some more.
to illustrate, what you just said. Basically, you need two websites. You have a website for the rest of the world and one website for UK. So that means more developers, more full-stack developers. Just more money. It makes no sense. Even the US doesn't have this type of regulations.
Yeah, I agree. So expect to be buying those .co.uk domains a lot. And just quickly, as one piece of housekeeping, I just want to interject here. We're getting pretty deep in reg stuff, and just as a rule of thumb, guys, we might be lawyers, but we're not your lawyers. So nothing on this stage is legal advice. Just remember that while we're talking. Joseph, Borg. Let's lead on with you. Obviously, you're kind of more MiCA focused, so I'm really interested to hear your thoughts and feelings on this.
Well, I think right now the biggest issue with MiCA is the RTSs, the regulations that came out. So when MiCA came out, I think everyone looked at it positively for the simple reason that it is the first and only till now pan-national regulatory framework, and it actually resolves part of what my colleagues were saying, because at the end of the day, once you have a law that allows you to passport your services throughout 27, 28 states, because obviously it's EEA, it's not just EU, I think that's great even for startups. It's what startups need. The problem is that as MiCA was fine, when the RTSs started coming along, it became tougher and tougher. And now suddenly we're getting ESMA issuing guidelines that are making it even more difficult. And to be honest with you, we are in a position now that we are at a crossroads. Do we want this industry or we don't want it? And we're getting the feeling that the European, the ESMA, more than the European Commission, because it seems there are also some disagreements at EU level, but ESMA seems to be trying to really impact the industry to shrink it. And that is not good. In every industry, it's good to have competition, it's good to have choice. And unfortunately, we have a situation where if the rules remain so tough, within the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to have a dozen operators that will take over the market, and there will be no space for smaller operators to compete with them.
Great points, guys. I'll just share an anecdote with the audience very quickly. I think a lot of us lawyers went through the yay regulation phase when a lot of regulators started talking about things. And what you learn very quickly is what something looks like on paper actually doesn't work as well when it's put into practice. And without naming and shaming the UK regulator, I remember when we made a bunch of the applications when the regulations first came in and you were put on the temporary register and you began to make the additional applications, we had a meeting with the FCA where they verbatim said, we feel like this application isn't in the spirit of the FCA. And if anybody knows what the spirit of the FCA is, I'm still looking for it. So I'd love to kind of pick anybody's brains on that. But so this is very, very insightful. Now, it's very easy to look at some of the complexities, and I think we try and juxtapose the regulator trying to do the right thing versus the regulator doing the more difficult thing and protecting the public. So What I'd love to hear is your thoughts and feelings on what are some of the things that organizations or individuals can do to limit their exposure. This doesn't have to be a crypto-specific question, because we are crypto and AI, to regulatory scrutiny. Not breaking the rules, but perhaps avoiding the light from being shined upon them. I'm going to stick with our formula. Joseph, I'll begin with you. Work down.
I'd say, Bitcoin.com, we're self-custodial. So it's, basically, we don't hold the keys to anyone's crypto. When you download a wallet with us, it's you own your own keys, and that's kind of is a game changer in terms of regulations. There's not really any existing, or at least applicable framework to self-custody. I know in the US they're trying to get after that. And if there is that I'm not aware of, it's not in place yet. Having like a business model where you hold the assets on behalf of the users, Coinbase, Binance, stuff like that, you're really exposing yourself to a lot of issues in terms of money laundering. You need licenses. So it's kind of a dumb answer, but I'd say like go self-custodial business. If you are a startup or a founder and you don't have a lot of money, you should 100% go the self-custodial route, because it's going to cost you so much time and effort and lawyers' fees to try to get all the licenses. And you'll have to get licenses everywhere you go, whether it's the UAE, the UK, the US, and all of those are different frameworks. And you can't find a lawyer who's going to help you with all of those frameworks. You'll have to hire separate lawyers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I would say in the light of that as well, so choose your headquarter wisely. So focus on a jurisdiction where you would like to have the best exposure to the talent pool, and also good relationship with the local regulator and familiarity with local regulations, and then basically start from there. This could be like some smaller jurisdiction like Dubai or Singapore, or some jurisdiction where you have a lot of English speakers, where you have a lot of talent pool, where you have also potentially a lot of VC sources for funding. But then going into expansion phase, you can also start for somewhere in the EU or from Switzerland. But in the first step, you really need to get yourself familiar with the local regulations and then start slowly. So for instance, if you want to offer like a bunch of regulated services, maybe start with one or two, and then basically obtain a license and then see how that turns out. In terms of cross-border provision of financial crypto asset-related services, pay attention to your website. I would always say, like, information materials, marketing materials. Don't say anything that basically, as you said, like, draw the regulatory scrutiny, because these are the first steps that you can do that would basically trigger alert with the regulators. So if you put something in your information materials, in your marketing documentation, basically implying that you're doing something that you're not licensed to, it's gonna make you trouble. And on the other hand, once you have at least one license in some jurisdiction, it's easier first to raise funds and then later to expand in further jurisdictions, and potentially also to offer services on a cross-border basis to the extent that is possible.
Absolutely. And just
Well, I will take a different angle, because at the end of the day, I think, first of all, what is your target market? That is what you have to start with. To be honest, I heard Singapore being mentioned. Singapore is definitely not great for crypto, for the simple reason that they've been not giving licenses for a very long time, and once you apply, you have to wait 2-3 years, which is impossible for a startup to wait 2-3 years before they actually start. So I do agree that there is the possibility of finding certain jurisdictions where you get ease of setting up business. Definitely, that's where you should start from. But also, if your target market is in Europe, there's no point in trying to go in some Caribbean island to start from there and then work your way to Europe. I believe that ultimately it's better to do what Miroslav said, find a smaller regulator where you can find where they have the knowledge of the industry, they are willing to help you out because they want to attract business towards the jurisdiction, and they ultimately give you the possibility of targeting a big market like the whole European market. Also, something important that we missed a bit, you said, like, what will keep you outside of the floodlights? I believe do nothing crazy. So if you want to do something crazy, then be prepared that you are going to attract attention. If you are going to try to splash massive marketing campaigns, and then be prepared that you are going to attract attention. If you don't want to attract attention, you have to operate as much as possible in compliance with the rules without coming up with anything crazy, which might not be the best business solution either. So at the end of the day, I believe that the best way to do it is try to comply as best you can with all the regulations, and you won't have any problems with attracting attention from the regulator, because if they come and check, you'll have everything in line. I believe investment in compliance today is as important as investment in investment in marketing. So one has to definitely have a budget for that and make sure that they use the right tools, more important than anything else, having the right tools and having the right people in the job.
Yeah. Guys, they were fantastic answers, and I mean that with all sincerity. And if anybody in the audience ever speaks with a lawyer and they don't give you something as either passionate or concise as this, don't work with lawyers that half-ass it. There are crypto-specific digital asset lawyers, and that's who you should be working with, because this realistically is an industry where it is not better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Go and get some permission somewhere and work based on that. We have 4 minutes left, and the final question I want to ask you guys is, what do you think is coming down the pipeline? Crystal ball, what do you think is going to be some of the biggest changes that we see? We focused on crypto, so let's stay with it, in the Web3 crypto space over the next 6 to 12 months that's going to shift the landscape that people should be cognizant of. We're going to keep our formula. We're going to start down this end and work our way down.
So what we saw with Trump launching its own meme coin, then Melania coin, his wife launching her own meme coin. I think they're opening the floodgates, and they did that one day before taking office, which was kind of a big FU to Gary Gensler, head of the SEC. So I think they're just kind of signaling the industry that this is going to be the Wild West. And right now, if you want to launch your own token, this is not legal advice, but there's never been a better time to do it, because how can you get in trouble if you just mimic the same business model than the president of the most powerful country and the most powerful regulator who will come and pick you up wherever you are. If you're in Spain or any country, we'll come and get you, right? So I think this is great for the industry in a weird way. I don't know if it's secure, but it's going to be an interesting year, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Miroslav?
I would definitely pay attention to developments in the States, because I think the things that are going to happen there over the next 3 years are going to be very, very important for all of us in terms of potential regulation, whether it's going to be full-scale regulation or rather light touch regulation in some way or another. It may influence some other jurisdictions that are still working on their regulatory frameworks. And more importantly, it is going to probably provide a better basis for U.S. businesses to scale, and also internationally, because as we all know, access to funding in the States is just much better than anywhere else. And then if we see more players maturing coming from the States as a result of this shifting landscape in the States, this could influence the industry altogether.
Absolutely.
Well, definitely the US is going to dictate what will happen with the industry in the coming years, and that worries me even more, being based in Europe and also Dubai, to be honest, because the regulatory frameworks in Dubai are very similar to MiCA, although we don't have the crazy guidelines coming out from ESMA, at least here. This could mean that our jurisdictions, Europe and the UAE, will either need to rethink everything and start deregulating a little bit in order to allow for European operators to compete with their American counterparts, Or else we're just saying, look, like everything else, US, please come and dominate our industry and basically take the whole market share from our operators. And I think we are at a crossroads in Europe particularly. We have such a massive overdrive of over-regulation, I'm sorry for the pun, but we are in a situation where if we really want to remain competitive in this world that is changing constantly, we need to start the regulation. Now, to be honest, then what happened with Bybit tells you, look, in Europe we never had these issues because obviously regulation is so strict that we don't get these situations. But at the end of the day, is it worth it? And I think that is the question at the end of the day. Will we have an industry to regulate in 5-10 years' time?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to cut it there, chaps, because I think we're just about out of time. But gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining me on stage and letting me ask you questions. Thank you for all joining us in the audience, and thanks to AIBC for organising this fantastic event. Let's have a large round of applause for the guys on stage.